Welcome to the Path Less Travel podcast. This week, we've got a very special guest, the president and CEO of Oaklawn, Laurie Nafziger. Laurie, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. This is fun.
Do you do these often?
No, I don't do that. I've done it once before.
Well, what's one thing that people don't know about you?
I won the decathlon in junior high.
You did?
Yes, although my siblings contest my memory, but I stand by it.
And did you compete in more extracurricular events as your life went on and you continued to excel and win?
I'm old enough that I was in high school before Title IX was there. And back then, there was Girls Athletic Association, which played half-court basketball because, women couldn't run a whole court.
Crazy.
I know. We have Caitlin Clark now. So there weren't many opportunities then. But I've been a runner since, and now I'm a crazy devoted walker. So I get out.
Have you thought about potentially trying to compete for the Olympics with fast walking, power walking? I joke around with my family. I actually have a pretty fast walk to me, and
Yeah.
I've joked around about being in the Olympics, but that's probably the only thing I can compete in.
Yeah.
What about you?
I could win a thing for disciplined, show up and do it every day walking. I haven't missed a day in a very long time. I walked outside every morning this past year with the exception of 2 times.
Really?
Yes. I get up early in the morning. I love the quiet. And so 5 o'clock in the morning, you'll find me walking around.
Wow. And you've been doing that for how long?
A couple years now.
Wow.
Yeah.
I interviewed Len Morris at ViewRail, and he walks to work every day.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I know you've got quite the distance to this location here in South Bend, but
Yeah.
that's very interesting. All right. Well, tell us about Oaklawn.
Okay.
I am fortunate to be on one of the boards here, and I know, but I think more and more people need to know about what's happening here.
That's right. So we're a regional provider of substance use and behavioral health services, and we have 4 campuses, Elkhart, Goshen, South Bend, Mishawaka. Any given year, unduplicated count, about 28,000 people. So our reach is wide, broad, and deep. Yeah.
You serve 28,000 people a year.
Unduplicated. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's big.
And the range of services here?
Um,
Almost the question should be, what don't we do at
Yeah,
Oaklawn? So,
well, and what I'm most proud of, if you let me go there already, is the work we've done recently, which
Yeah.
is filling a really important gap. So we've had prevention and outpatient forever. We've done inpatient forever. But what's been missing is this gap in the middle. What is kind of, in my mind, the behavioral health equivalent of urgent care. We all know what urgent care is
Right.
in our physical health. But that's been missing in our world, and that's not just an Oaklawn thing, that's our industry thing. There hasn't been this middle. And without the middle, when someone's in crisis, you call 911, the police respond as they are trained to do, and we have not given them many options. They can take you to jail, they can take you to the ER, they can leave you in the community. And they're doing their jobs. I'm not faulting the police at all. That's all they gave them. But now we have mobile crisis and crisis centers and open access. And so we've filled that gap in between. And I'm really pumped about that.
Well, when you say we filled that gap, I mean, what's the time period in which this has been in the works?
We've been doing open access now where you can walk in any day and see a licensed clinician and get in right away for a couple years now. And then the crisis center was just in the last half year. Mobile crisis about 1 year. So very recent. Yeah.
So you have a crisis center and a mobile crisis unit.
That's right.
Explain a little bit more about just the unique offering
Yeah.
that is for this community.
Yeah. With mobile crisis, typically that starts with a phone call, and as is true in other places across the country that do that, 80% of calls can be handled on the phone. I mean, we can sort it out, give them direction, have a plan, that kind of thing. But 20% of the time, and our numbers run pretty true to what others say, they can't. And so then we go out. And we have good working relationships, and we're continuing to develop them with 911 and with first responders. So sometimes we go out alone, sometimes we go out with the police, and sometimes it's just the police.
Wow.
So we kind of work that out and take the services to them. Crisis Center, it's a place to come to, and right now in South Bend we're open 12 hours a day, every day. And you can walk in a crisis, and it's a crisis as you define it. We're not here to say, no, you don't have the right crisis, or it's not bad enough, or it's too bad. We'll take you in, sort it out, and we have a multidisciplinary staff that does that, and that's really cool.
That is pretty cool. and I just don't know if it's a resource that we recognize as a community that we have here.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot happening. What's on the horizon?
Well, everything I've talked about so far is in St. Joe County. So we are opening a crisis center in Goshen.
Yes.
Yet this calendar year. And that mobile crisis is also operating too. So we have a little bit more to do there. And then we're working towards full certification as a certified community behavioral health clinic, which will give us some resources around all this work we're doing, funding and resources with data and tracking data and, being able to do that.
So tell us about your leadership journey.
Yeah. So I've been at Oaklawn over 36 years, which is by any standard a really long time. I thought before that if, this couldn't happen, but if somebody or a voice could have said on day one, Laurie, you're going to be there 36 years from now, I would have said, oh, no, not possible. But here I am. And I've been CEO since 2018. No, since 2006, for 18 years.
For 18 years.
For 18 years. So, and I had other jobs before Oaklawn, but really this has been my life's work. And there's several reasons for that. It's, I was always, even before I knew Oaklawn, impressed with, my gosh, they do good work. Mm-hmm. Kind of this quality place. And of course, it's really important work that matters. And then Oaklawn has always been big enough that it gave me professional opportunities. Mm-hmm. So I didn't get bored or there wasn't something new to do. And I had some great mentors along the way. So all those things kind of kept coming together, and yeah.
So who are some of the mentors that came along the way?
Yeah. Hal Lowen was, so I'm the third CEO in our history.
Wow.
And we've all tended to stay a long time. So Hal Lowen was the CEO before me, and he was a great mentor.
Well, who is one person or people in your life that you can remember that just believed in you, believed in your potential? Mm-hmm. Who comes to mind?
Mm-hmm. My parents did, which I grew up in a typical enough home. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. So traditional values, but my folks and my dad especially always encouraged me and thought I was capable of it. So Dad really encouraged me. Yeah, he was so proud of some of my accomplishments along the way. I had great teachers along the way that kind of made me feel like I was smart and capable, gave me opportunities, and yeah, except for one. Can I talk about one?
You can talk about whatever you want to talk about.
It's a great story. So I was in band and I played oboe, and I was fine. And so there was just one other oboe player, Bill Fisher, and he was really good and he practiced a lot and I didn't. And so we were going to contest, and there was a pretty long oboe solo, a pretty exposed part where the oboe had to be really good. And Bill Fisher had it nailed. You know, he was good. It was just fine. But I was worried the whole time, because what if Bill's sick or something? Well, and so one day while we were practicing, Mr. Gannon, the band teacher, he's saying to the whole band, he says, you know, a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. And I was sitting there thinking, oh my gosh, it's me. I am the weakest link. I'll never forget that. So I was not a particularly great oboe player. But that aside, I had a lot of great teachers along the way who encouraged me, and I learned one extracurricular I did in high school was speech club, kind of by accident. But I had a great coach, and I won the contest, and I learned through that oh, I can stand up in front of people and talk. And that's a good thing to know when you're a leader. Yeah, I don't get nervous talking.
This is one of my favorite classes in college was professional speaking.
Yeah.
Just how to use your hands and
Yeah,
how to prepare for a message and how to just get this anxiety out.
yeah,
And
that's right.
Simon Sinek says to view it as an exciting opportunity versus
Oh, yeah,
like, oh, I'm nervous and scared. Like, no, this is a great opportunity.
that's right.
But it's still hard to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, what you mentioned people being proud of you. What's something that you are proud of? A proud moment, a proud thing. It could be here at Oaklawn or in your personal life.
I'm very proud of what we're doing right now with this certification and this rollout of these crisis services. You know, we're not a perfect place, and even though you're always striving for it. And a comment that I've always been hypersensitive to along the way was, oh, it's hard to get into Oaklawn. You know, you can't get into Oaklawn. And so to have made changes and alterations so that with open access, walk in, you know, that feels so satisfying. So to do that kind of transformative work and pull it off, which has not been easy because not all the staff have been happy about everything we've done, but it's the right thing to do and it's for good reasons. I'm very proud of that.
And I don't want to glaze over the open access here. I mean, we went from a wait time of approximately how long?
Oh, weeks, 4, 5, 6 weeks for a routine, outpatient appointment.
To same day.
To same day.
How about that?
It's amazing, yeah. And our show rate with scheduled appointments was about 50%. Because, you know, when people wait that long.
Right.
And so it was inefficient too, because then that precious clinical time was wasted.
Right.
We don't waste any time now. Yeah. I like that.
Somebody had said, it might have been 12 months ago, Oaklawn is just busy doing the work. We're head down. We're pushing forward, and you know, some organizations do a lot of talking about themselves. You guys, it's a lot of action here in Oaklawn. That's what I love. Yeah. Well, as a leader, what are some things that you do to stay sharp?
I get a lot out of our state association. So right now there's 24 community mental health centers in Indiana, and we get together quarterly, and I love being with those people. You know, we're doing the same work, and we feed each other and support each other, and that I really enjoy that. I take advantage of opportunities that are presented to me to sharpen my own skills, stretch myself. when Craig calls, you say, okay, I'll do a podcast. And, I read and I go to workshops, and I love that. There's also a national association. I always go to that. I was in St. Louis this year, so yeah.
Do you have any favorite books? I run a book club with, there's about 30 men in it. We meet once a month.
Yeah.
So I'm always looking for new titles to share with them.
What kind of books are you reading?
Business books, leadership books,
Okay.
a lot of this.
Yeah. No, I don't have because when I read, I'm relaxing.
Are you really?
I am,
Wow.
for the most part. Yeah.
Yeah. Like biographies or?
I love historical novels or, yeah. So that's what I do.
One a month, one a quarter, just whenever you have time.
Oh, no, more than that.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah, I'll do several. A month, yeah.
Several a month?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. You can do that.
We need to raise our level. We do one a month, and when I say we, I mean there's probably 4 out of the 30 that have made it one every month. So what about any habits that you have that you said you wake up and you walk routinely? Anything, whether it be personal or organizational habits that we've instituted?
Yeah. I'm an organized person, and I wake up with energy, and so use the time in the morning to kind of gather myself, enjoy the peace and quiet, plan for my day. I always end my day with my gratitude list. Those people, those moments during the day makes a huge difference. It's such an easy little thing to do, but it's hard to be disciplined to do it. But I do that pretty well. I've got a really interesting little journal that I call it'll never make sense to anybody after I'm gone who looks at it, but it's interesting people I've met along the way, and it's just names of people that intrigued me, interested me. It's such a positive thing, and I like. It doesn't include family because they're a given, right? But it's those other people along the way that, go figure. Yeah.
I've tried it. I've struggled with it. It was and I'm a very disciplined individual, but journaling morning and evening, even for 2-3 minutes at a time. I think that reflection is so hard we all recognize the value of it, but to actually do it. So what's is it just literally the journal and it's things that I'm thankful for? Is it just a time of reflection? Because I think this is really important for people to understand.
It's a time of reflection.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't have my list of interesting people I've met along the way. That's there, and I can go back to it. With my gratitude from the previous day, it's not saved.
Yeah.
But it's still lovely.
Yeah.
And it's such a good way to start a meeting too. It changes the tone because you tend to want to bring problems to solve and things to a meeting and that kind of thing. And if you tell us something that's going well, whatever, what a nice way to start a meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to get into some of the challenges of leadership.
Yeah.
What's one of the most challenging pieces or parts of leading either yourself or an organization?
Yeah. As a leader, I'll say always, knowing there's never an always, but you always have to be the adult in the room. So even when I'm mad or disappointed or want to react or whatever, you have to be the adult in the room. And so it is that discipline of taking the high view and the long view, as opposed to this moment. And I don't always do that perfectly by a long shot.
Yeah.
But that's when it works best. And then I get mad, but I also never need to stay mad very long, and then can come back when I'm calm, and then talk about it, manage it, and go forth that way. Yeah, I've learned over the years that also when thinking about getting mad and reacting, it's there are always two sides to a story.
Mm.
Now, sometimes I'll hear a story and I'm mad, and it turns out I was right. That was bad. But so often, when you hear the other side of the story, it's like, oh, okay, things look just a little different than they did before. So I have learned to hear both sides of the story, before I do anything drastic.
Do you have a favorite risk that you've taken in your time, or a favorite failure that comes to mind?
Yeah. I don't know if they're favorites, but I have definitely learned lessons along the way. Yeah. I tell staff sometimes I do a little leadership course here when we talk about, personnel management's always the hardest part. And that hiring and, especially like at a time right now where there aren't enough people out there. And so it's very easy to take the first person who walks in your door and that kind of thing. And I tell people I've made, I think, every hiring mistake that is to be made. I've made the the missionary ones, like, well, this person's kind of like pathetic, but we can save them.
Right.
I've done the, they even tell you something how they screwed up an earlier job, but I let myself think, oh, but in a good, healthy environment,
That won't happen here.
they'll be better here. Yeah. Or they wouldn't do that to me. Yeah, so I've learned lessons about those. Yeah.
Well, how do you recharge? What do you do to fill your tank? Your organization pours out and pours out and pours out.
Yeah.
How do you fill your tank?
Yeah. I think I'm going to say some of this I think is wiring, in that I've always been pretty good at compartmentalizing. When I leave, I leave.
Okay.
And then when I come back, I'm here. I'm just going. And then I walk. That walk is really important to me. And I love to eat out and have good food and drink with friends. So we do a lot of that.
Favorite food?
Italian.
Italian.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm.
How do you decide what you say yes to and you say no to?
Mm-hmm.
What's the lens in which you filter that through?
Yeah. First off, and I may go down a little bunny trail for a while, but stick with me and then I'll come
I'll
back
stay with you.
it. Yeah, okay.
You get the door locked, so I can't leave. No.
That's right. Kind of my mantra right now, especially doing what we're working at now, it's the whole notion of start with yes. Because I think so often we start at what can't be done, or what I don't want to do, or something that's self-protective. And I tell staff that we're going to start with yes. It doesn't mean that we will always do yes, or that we should always do yes, but we're going to start with it. And when you can start with yes, just that openness to, let's give it a try, makes huge difference in what you can do. And I think so often people don't start there. It's going ever. And so I try to start with yes a lot. And I think that's one of the reasons I'm sitting here today, is that I just said yes to a lot of things that came my way.
Mhm.
Laurie, would you like to chair this? Would you want to try that? Whatever. And it's like, yeah, I think so. You know, you bring a curiosity to it and a
Mhm.
possibility. And sure enough, you know, here you are all these years later. Now that said, you know, I don't say yes to everything. And I'm a little fussier now about, especially in my off time, what I say yes to. Um, I've done lots of board work over my years, lots of it. And I am pickier now about what kind of, I want to, I want to be at a place where it's, if I'm going to do board work, I want it to be a well-run board that's going to be interesting and engaging, and I can make a contribution, and yeah, that kind of thing.
So where did start with yes come from?
I had somebody give it to me. It sits on my desk.
Oh, God.
Yeah, so it's there, and it just resonates with me. I've had that actually for a long time, and now as we're doing this crisis work, it just fits. I mean, in our industry, I remember, you know, with all our regulations and whatever, for a program, you'd have your inclusion and your exclusion criteria. It's one of the first things you do as you're starting a new program. This is who's in and this is who's out. And you know what? That defining this who's out, like,
Mhm.
okay, we're not going to do that. It's like, you come here, we'll sort it out with you and get you to the right place. We're going to start with yes. Yeah.
Reminds me of a book by the author is Adam Grant, and it's called Think Again,
Uh-huh.
and it's that curiosity that you're talking about too.
Yeah.
Just because something's been done a certain way
Mhm.
doesn't mean that there's new data to evolve our thinking and to
Yeah.
approach it. So I like that. I
Yeah.
like that a lot. So would that be your one of the questions is if you had a billboard, what would your message be? Would
I
that
wrote
be
that
it?
down. Start with yes. I did. That's what I'd say. Yeah, I think it's a great way to live.
Well, I've got two final questions for you.
Okay.
What's one of the most worthwhile investments you've made? Time, energy, effort.
Um, most worthwhile.
Or a worthwhile.
Yeah, that's always better. Yeah. I'm really glad I'm really glad I went to grad school to position myself for possibilities that wouldn't have been there without. You know, there's some things you just have to have the degree to do it. That was worth it.
You were a Bronco, right?
I was.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. My kids, they're worth it. Yeah. Although I'm going to say this too, because this is a little different than maybe some people thought about things along the way. I worked those years and was always happy and fulfilled doing it. And I always said that I had a friend who was a wise teacher, and she said, you know what, it's really fine if your kids grow up knowing that they're not the most important things in the world. And I kind of thought, yeah, that there are other important things too. They're important, no doubt,
Right.
but they're not necessarily the be all and end all. And so I figured at the end, they're either going to end up in therapy at Oaklawn, or they could in the end say, and my mom was the CEO at Oaklawn.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I got at the end. And so I was always very comfortable about that. So that's a little unusual. Probably won't hear a lot of women say that, but that was me. Yeah.
Last two questions.
Okay.
The title of the podcast is The Path Less Traveled.
Mm-hmm.
How can you relate when you hear that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So president and CEO, leader, okay. But I don't have a real strong, have to be on the top or else cutthroat, competitive kind of thing. I'm very comfortable collaborating and working with. I carry a strong mantra, if you will, about pick your fights. And so I'm competitive enough, that pleases me, but not at any cost. And so there is this part about valuing the partnerships and who you're walking alongside, and that doing that together that is very important to me and satisfying. I've said many times, Oaklawn's the biggest player around here, but Lord knows, and thank goodness, we're not the only ones. There's so much need and so many other good providers around, and we're going to touch more lives and do it better together. And I believe that. So not an aggressive top dog kind of leader.
Yeah, but you see collaboration versus consensus, and I'm sure that bleeds into the organization's culture here as well.
Yeah.
And it's not my idea, your idea. It's the best idea that matters for this organization moving forward.
Yep.
Last question I've got for you. What's the kindest thing someone has done for you?
This will sound small, but even in remembering this, I got a little choked up remembering when my dad died. He died very suddenly, and he was 70 something. I mean, I was an adult, but it was a sad thing, and I was so touched by people showing up, like at the visitation, and just caring, and people I just never expected to care. And it just drove home for me the importance of showing up, being there, saying it, being present. And that's on the one hand, well, of course people show up to visitation, right? Except it I was surprised at it. And I'm very moved by it.
Yeah, and it's there's people that are unexpected, and then also that maybe travel a good
That's
distance too.
Yeah.
And it's for that small interaction, but boy, does it mean a lot.
Meant a lot to me. Meant a lot.
Well, what final thoughts do you have on Oaklawn? Anything that you'd want to communicate as it pertains to Oaklawn, or just leadership?
I'm going to reiterate some things. I'm going to encourage people to lean in, to take advantage of the opportunities, to not carry things too heavily, and kind of enjoy their partners along the way in work. There's just so much. I tell staff here that there's 3 reasons I've been here this long. One is treatment works, and I see that. And there's often a miracle in that, because sometimes we see some very ill people. So treatment works. I want to be at a place where I can be part of helping to wipe out stigma, so that people feel free to ask for help and get the help that I know is there. And then the last one is that the whole time, it's like I've been surrounded by bright and caring people. It's fun. And you put that together and it's like, yep, I'm going to work today. Yeah.
It'll put a pep in your step in the morning.
I know. There you go.
Well, thank you for taking the time out of your day to do this.
Yep.
I've appreciated our time together.
Me too.
This is a special organization with a special leader.
Yeah.
So thank you again.
Thank you. Enjoyed it.
Well, that's it for this week's episode of the Path Less Travel podcast with Oaklawn's leader, Laurie. Until next week, have a great day.